Hey Pixelers, Michael Haddon here. Now, 2024 is coming to an end, and the big thing that I think has changed this year when it comes to cybersecurity really has been the involvement of AI into everyone's workflows. Now, obviously, we've been using machine learning for quite some time, and large language models were here before this year. But really, this is the year that everyone started to use the large language models in their day to day workflows. And the secret was obviously no longer a secret. And everyone from your daughter to your gran are not only using large language models to help them do their homework, but also to try to compromise enterprise systems. And that's the interesting thing because large language models, while they obviously have their huge fundamental mistakes with ghosting and all of this, they do help attackers breach systems. And they've really reduced the barrier of entry for cybercriminals to learn how to compromise your system. In the past, cybercrime was a lot more smash and grab unless the attacker thought there was a massive bounty waiting for them. And now I think we're seeing the rise of attackers waiting and sitting in your network because it is becoming a lot more affordable to do more complicated attacks and do traversal type attacks. Learn how your system operates, use AI to start feeling around and understanding how they can start breaking into other systems, obviously using AI to literally help them, right? Helping them make scripts that are bespoke for your situation. And well, let's have a look together. And I'll just cover a few things which I think going into 2025 are topics which we need to have on the forefront of our mind more than we did, say, in 2024. So, LLM jacking. Now, this is important because so many companies are now integrating themselves with large language models. And I'm just going to be honest, a lot of the implementations I saw were so hackly thrown together just because so many companies thought we've got to get some sort of large language model implementation into our system as soon as possible so we can be competitive. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this was investor driven, right? The problem is, you have your application over here that we rushed to implement large language models into. And unfortunately, no system is perfect. And all someone has to do is find a CVE in order to figure out your application secrets. Now, I'm making that sound really easy right now. But unfortunately, sometimes it is that easy, especially if we're being a bit late on doing patching and then they're able to figure out, hey, you're using an insecure, say, Laravel framework, and this is a known CVE in order to, say, print out some environment information or whatever, right? So we have our attacker here who is able to exploit a known CVE on our public application. Now, if the attacker is able to discover our LLM credentials, then unfortunately they would be able to communicate directly with the LLM server, which is hosting the AI model illegitimately. And people will pay serious money for such a connection like this because every single token, every single string you generate from a large language model obviously has a cost associated to it and obviously therefore has value associated to it. These illegitimate queries, they may not be done by this specific malicious actor. These may be sold, to other people who want access to this API endpoint, which there is a market for. And Sysdig did a calculation that if you were just to pound this model here, that it could potentially cost you 46,000 a day, right? So in terms of the amount of queries that you could perform and absolutely obviously ravage your monthly costs. This is just like crypto mining, right? So they gain access to your AWS cloud environment, for example, and then they spin up loads of virtual machines. But in this example, all they need access to is your large language model. Now, the point I was making before is I think we're going to see the serious rise of attackers who like to spend their time. Like I was saying, in the past, a lot of cybercrime was kind of like smash and grab, right? You just take what you can very quickly, you exploit one small vulnerability, you get one small benefit, whether or not it's a credential dump or whatever, and then you run away with it. And of course, there was always some criminal organizations who liked to take their time, sit in your network, sit in your system, and really see the maximum amount of value they can extract from you. But most of those people who took the time were well-funded state actors or just very sophisticated criminal organizations who had the time to wait partly because they know who they're attacking, so there's a big reward payout, and partly because they're not necessarily in such a desperate situation to gain that immediate value from the attack. While AI has helped programmers in general, whip up a small application, it is also helping not very good cyber criminals also learn how to attack traversely in your system. And so I think going into next year, we really need to spend more time doing things like threat modeling and really analyzing case studies. Like, for example, with the Atlas Mitra framework, we have good case studies of companies in the past who have either been breached or whatever, and learn from their mistakes and how we can lock down our system. I'm going to do a bigger video on this framework, really going into the details. But as a quick example, the way that it works is it shows the framework for the progression that attackers will do when they break into your system. And we can go from left to right, we can have hypothetical scenarios of how a specific attacker will break into your system in order to extract different types of information, or alternatively, to infect stuff. Because obviously, if we're building up machine learning models, there's a lot of value in convincing those models of a different reality, right? Injecting false information into those models so they serve up false information in the future, which may have real financial consequences. Now, unfortunately, the other major development when it comes to machine learning being used for nefarious purposes is through phishing, right? We're in an age where it's becoming so easy to copy someone's voice, copy someone's mannerisms, copy someone's identity and personality, quite literally, and playing it back to someone else for nefarious means. For example, in Hong Kong, they had 26 million stolen from their organization from a sophisticated deepfake scheme, which completely fabricated an entire video conference call. And also, it's quite amazing, really, what they did, if I'm going to be honest with you. And we can see here, everyone present in the video calls, except for the victim, was a fake representation of real people, which to me is just amazing, right? You never know when you get that call if it's actually going to be your boss or not, right? So this is why we need to start having more automated system checks in place for ensuring that people perform the actions that they intended to perform, rather than relying on, XYZ said this, so I just pressed the button, right? And we should be building those automated systems anyway, making sure that people have to authenticate into their various different accounts to ensure that different actions are authorized. I mean, it's a bit like, with Git, we always make sure that pull requests, have multiple people sign off on them through a digital validated means, rather than people just being able to push directly onto the main or master branch without first being approved. Now, we've seen the complete rise of companies like Wiz who are selling AI products to help secure your company. Right now, I'm still in a, hey, let's see what they actually do, because you got to realize there is a lot of marketing hype around AI. And, I'm seeing these huge numbers always being displayed everywhere, like by 2030, the market will be worth hundreds of millions, and right now it's only worth tens of millions. And there is a lot of hype, and at the end of the day, these tools, they claim to do quite a lot of stuff when you could say they're just very advanced anomaly detection software. And the problem with anomaly detection software is, if my theory is right, that attackers will now spend more time trying to breach your system, that also means they're able to slowly ramp up their attack. And anomaly detection systems, from my experience, tend to be only good when you attack immediately rather than slowly ramp everything up. I guess the good news is if you are in cybersecurity, the never-ending cat and mouse game between the criminals and the defenders will continue for time immemorial. Anyway, I thought this would be a quick, nice, short video just to end the year with. As always, I hope you guys have a lovely day, and thank you so much for checking out this video. Cheers.